There are two components to great communication. What are they? Who would like to go first?
I will, Kurt.
Verbal and
Go ahead. Who said I will?
I did.
Go
Mike,
ahead. What's the answer?
visual and verbal.
The visual and the verbal. Is that correct? Survey says, bing, yes. The visual and the verbal, or if you like to refer to this way, show and tell. Which comes first?
Show.
Show. That's why it's called show and tell, not children. Let's have another episode of tell and show. It's this is my pet dog. This is my catcher's mitt. This is my baseball bat. This is my whatever, my hockey skate. And then you tell the class what's so nice about your hockey skate or whatever it is you're showing them, your doggy or whatever it might be, right? So show and then tell. Visual before verbal. So you're always trying to say, what does your company do? Well, if you got a moment, can you see DCISolutions.net? Don't even say, can you go to our website? Because that takes time. So if you got a moment, could you see DCISolutions.net? DCISolutions.net explains this very clearly with graphics, what we're talking about. Meaning you and I, we are talking about it already. This is going to show you. No, I don't have my computer in front of me. All right. Well, if you don't, then we'll just do it with the powers of imagination, I say. Then everyone's laughing, having a good time, right? So this is how you would want to frame it. The visual whenever possible, and then the verbal, okay? The visuals, what do those visuals start by? How do you begin the visual discussion with the guy that's 2,000 miles away? Maybe you're not even talking to him at the moment, but you're trying to initiate the conversation.
Sharing an email.
You're going to share an email, or as we like to say, forward it, because, oh, hey, here's a Pepsi. I can either put the Pepsi in my own mouth and spit it into yours, which would not be attractive, or I can simply hand you a Pepsi that hasn't been opened. When I take something off the shelf and I say, here's a Pepsi, hasn't been opened or tampered with, I'm forwarding you a Pepsi. 2 pictures, 2 sentences, 2 links, just like bottled water. Forward it without any tampering. Okay, they get the email. Somebody else now who hasn't shared. You're going to ask a question. What is the question going to begin with once you see them in person or over the phone? What are you going to ask?
what do you think of the email?
Exactly. By the way, the rule of life is to ask, what did you think about any number of things? Start the conversation. Well, what did you think of the game? Well, what did you think of the pastor's sermon? Well, what did you think of the garden we planted? What did you think of the fill in the blank? What did you think? Not me. Let me tell you what I think. No, what did you think? What did you think of the email I forwarded to you in particular, right? Okay. Now, I mentioned earlier the questions that should be asked, like the question I asked when I was a junior, or the question I asked when I was later, I was a senior. I was asking a question. Good questions are relevant, but what? Somebody else.
Rarely,
Rarely asked, or I'm going to share this word.
never.
So I'll just say seldom. Yeah, I'll say never, seldom. What I like about seldom is that it's not a 2-penny word, is it?
It's seldom used.
It's seldom used. Very insightful, Alec. It's seldom used. It is a $2 SAT word. Use words that are seldom used when you ask questions that are seldom asked. Is everyone following? It's
Yes.
good to have a 3rd grade vocabulary for the most part, but you have to punctuate your 3rd grade vocabulary with these types of words, and we'll find out why. By the way, who can explain why this statement is true?
I think sometimes people are afraid to ask questions, right? They feel like maybe they're stupid if they ask a question.
Okay. People have an inherent inhibition, right? Okay. But when they ask, why do you want your questions to meet both of these criteria versus just one or neither?
Because it shows you're the expert and it gets them thinking in ways that they've never thought before, never talked about before to other people.
Right. Never before has anyone asked this question.
I thought you meant people asking questions, not us asking questions. Sorry.
Okay, that's cool. No, that's fine. Let's keep rolling, but I think Mike's on over the target here. You want to ask, not like you're talking to a person, what time is it? Well, that's not, I mean, that'd be relevant, but everyone's asked everyone else on earth what time it is, right? You want to ask a question where he goes, I don't think I've been asked that question since I can remember. So that means that whoever is asking the question is no ordinary question asker, probably no ordinary thinker. Maybe, I don't know, it's too early to tell. But it's like the first fragrant whiff of something. You're thinking, what is that? Is there something cooking? Somebody making bacon, right? So this is an example. Not how much did your company make last year? He knows that. How many employees do you have? He knows that. What is your earnings per employee? I haven't thought about it that way before. Interesting question. But that's important because many experts in different parallel tracks to DCI will say, if you have 20,000 SKUs and 5 of those SKUs of your inventory make half of your money, you would want to know what those SKUs are. Likewise, of those 20,000 SKUs, if 600 lose you money, you'd probably want to know what those SKUs are. And then you'd want to say, what SKUs are currently losing the most money that have the least probability of reversing trend? I don't know. We just sell 20,000 things and we have this much profit. Okay. It means that they haven't gone granular enough. They don't have enough vision to see where they're making and where they're losing money. And this is where typically consultants, process improvement consultants come in and they start to go to town because they immediately take this guy with an armored shell and they flip open. So now he's got the soft underbelly exposed and he says, I really don't know the things I should know. Help me. You now expose me as not being the altogether impenetrable know-it-all executive. You've now said, I'm losing money and I don't know where. I'm making money and I don't know where. I don't know really enough of the distinctions. How could I possibly know? You're asking questions, so maybe you have a solution path, right? Another question. Once they answer that question, well, how's that number trending? Sometimes I ask people, what's your company in 3 years? I don't know, 3 years. That's a good question. They're thinking. Or they've thought about it and they're really excited because they want to talk about the future of the company. And nobody in the hallways is asking. They're simply saying, how's your day? How's my day? No one's saying, how's your 3-year target? So now you capture that guy because he's like, I am totally with you. But you either engage him by letting him see where he's got a weakness and he doesn't know something, or you engage a strength and he feels like, here's my chance to share with somebody. I don't get enough opportunities to share the good things that I'm planning, right? So your questions, you should ask them in a way that is blank to understand, but blank to answer. Who would like to take a shot at this who hasn't gone yet?
Easy and difficult.
Okay, so let's talk about this. You want to ask questions, and we'll just put it this way, easy and hard. Why? Because hard is a single syllable. It just sounds better. Hard, easy. Again, these are 3rd grade words. Difficult is more like a 5th grade word. Easy, hard. That's easy to understand, hard to answer. Well, let me think about that. And you could tell as furrows his brow, he might even look off to the corner like, how's that good? And then he's really trying to find the right words. And ideally, if you're a wordsmith by nature, I remember being in class and the guy said, back to high school again, Kirk, I'm living my high school days, but it just struck me that teacher for some course was somebody who's asking about Jessica Savage. I still remember it. He said, the student said, do you think she's good looking? High school teacher doesn't want to say that he finds certain women attractive or not. He goes, well, she's, and I'm sitting in the front row and I say, photogenic. He goes, yes. Photogenic. See, so you pop the right word on a guy when he had a question quite that was easy to answer, but easy to understand, but hard to answer. Now and you dropped that right wordsmith word on him. He's like, yeah, that guy. He's my go-to. Anytime I'm stuck, you ask a good question when the auto response, right? They don't even think about it. Who wants to take this that hasn't taken anything yet? What is the auto response when you ask a good question?
I never thought about that.
Right. Or that which
That's
is,
a great
you should
question.
know that, right? Here's the first part. The auto response is like a knee jerk. Like you go to the doctor, you hit the knee, beep, your leg straightens out. What is that? It's 2 words. It's an exclamation.
Good question.
No.
Good question. Wow, good question. I really should know that. Haven't thought about that. By the way, I haven't thought about that is usually the subtext. So yes, you hear the subtext, but most people don't want to admit. I'd say most people don't want to admit that they don't know and they should know. Or they'll say it this way, I really should know that. Hey, you got me off guard there, Kirk. Okay, you won that round. I think it's 14%, whatever the number is, right? Talk about outcomes before you talk about what. And we'll go back to this if we can to answer this. We'll go back.
Process.
Where are we? I'm trying to find it. Excuse me, Art, just a second. I wanted to see if I could find the cheat sheet so that we're not talking too far ahead of ourselves. See, here it is. Okay.
Mm.
You want to talk not about process. By the way, is not everything over on the left column? Come on, Kurt. Isn't everything over here? Comes in, which we don't do. Looks at your books, which we don't do. They do this, they do that. Is this idea of coming in or looking at your books? That's process, correct?
Yes.
We don't want to talk about process. We want to talk about, oh, here it is. We talk about outcomes before we talk about process. See, I got the cart before the horse there. Right. So do not talk about process until you first talk about outcomes. I am going to make you the happiest man on earth in 2 minutes. Well, did I win the lottery? Are we going to give me superpowers? What are you going to do? This will happen. X, Y, Z, amazing things will happen. This will be the outcome. Now, there's also a great video that you should watch if you find it. It talks about the negative of this. Guy gets in a plane and he's entering into a fog. And it starts by saying, you now have 3 minutes left to live. You've seen it maybe. I think I shared it with the group once. You now have 3 minutes left to live. And then it talks about how the guy is saying, I got this under control, blah, blah, blah. You now have 2 minutes left to live. So it's telling you the outcome. You will be dead in 2 minutes. But let's go ahead with the process. This is what you do. This is what everyone does. They check this, they check this, they radio, they look at the controls, and they realize that they really weren't trained in how to fly by instruments. And then they look down, they can't see the ground. It's gotten dark. They look for a landing strip. They start to go lower. Then they feel like they're losing their sense of gravity and things are off a little bit. And so they fly into a correction. It's not a correction. They're actually flying into a corkscrew without knowing it. And you get 5 seconds left to live. And then it ends with you have no seconds left to live and the plane is crashed. So you can do it both directions, but the goal is you talk about outcomes with authority. And then when they go, wow, they'll say, how? Good. Now let's talk about process. But we never talk about how. DCI does tax credits and they look at your phone bill and they look for savings. This is how people who think they're helping me talk. You are not helping me. You're not helping you. You're not helping anybody. You are boring us all. Do not talk about the process. And if you do, don't talk about it that way ever. Talk about the outcome. We saying the outcome up front early, right after what did you think? Are we not?
Yes.
Talking about the outcome. I mean, right at the jump. Here's how the movie ends. Now I can tell you what the movie's about, and I can tell you who's in the movie. But how the movie ends